Good morning. Satsang, at least our kind, is concerned with understanding and finding one's own self. Now, we use the term self in so many different ways. And the thing is, as part of our spiritual progress, we have to follow these leads where they take us. Jay, can you tell me, just as a guess, over the last 5 years, how many times have you had episodes of fear, feeling lost, or something similar to that?
I think my takeaway from the satsangs is an abiding grace which comforts me in a way. I don't feel fear quite the same way when I was younger. Maybe it just comes with being old. There's a solitude, a silence from your exquisite, the life force you channel, what you share, how you love us. Um, it's exquisite. It's just, it's indescribable. As you said, somewhere between knowing it and experiencing it and being it, it's simply falling back into God's love. I'm probably still on an advaita path, but you're teaching about God manifest and how exquisite it is, and it's a gift. I'm blessed and in bliss, and that's my takeaway. And that's why I can't not be here. Suffice it to say, I love the sangha. I love the love that is shared here. Um, it's a joy. You are my joy. Thank you.
Aren't you beautiful?
I love you.
Yeah, thank you. It's hard to know what topic to start satsang with sometimes for me. Usually I come with some preconceived ideas of what I'm going to say because these ideas appeared 5 minutes before satsang. So it's not as if they were a burden that I carry with me all the time. But I'm also quite aware of you out there and what your experiences are and what can be done to deepen those experiences. This trip, this spiritual trip, this advaita spiritual trip even, has some risks. I know that for years I was plagued by doubt that I would ever find what I was looking for. But I kept going to Sansanim and my other teachers from faith. And look at Chris. He's been coming here for years. And he's got it. He understands what it's all about. Now it's a matter of just deepening it so he too can be a voice for consciousness. I can't speak highly enough about Chris and what he's doing. But for the rest of us, the trip can be very eventful. Or for most people, when they come here, nothing happens. And after a while they say, what the fuck is this? I'm as miserable now as I was 2 years ago. I enjoy satsang. I come here for the entertainment. But I'm waiting for the big enlightenment experience. Well, you can wait 1,000,000 lifetimes. But you have to realize that it's going to feel like you're trading something for increased spiritual understanding and attainment. What in you has to be ready for that? What do? You do anything? There are lots of times I've gone through periods of fear because of what I experienced on the path, but not directly related to satsang, our group. But they had to do with my own experiences and how they're changing, although delightful, also brought some fear. I will have some, for example, in the past, fearful or painful experiences. And being kind of a histrionic personality type, I'd go around silently screaming to myself, holding my head, saying, what the fuck's going on? I'm scared. because what we're doing reaches to the place where you enter the picture as an entity, as a human being. It's not a trivial thing. This is a place where you try to grasp the meaning of living and dying, as well as finding your own divine nature. You have a right to be scared because you haven't heard that kind of stuff before. You've heard, hurry up and grow up, make a lot of money and make me comfortable. You've heard so many different things. But the search for God within ourselves is not really a search for something separate from ourselves. It's a search for ourself. And by self, I mean the feeling of being alive and sitting here in a group, waiting for something to happen, waiting for chanting, waiting for the end of satsang, waiting for a period of chanting or music that we can all practice together. All of these things are very, very important. I've been practicing over 50 years. I'd say it's only the last 5 years that it's been easy. Before that, sometimes so many different things happened that they scared the shit out of me. Sometimes I felt totally isolated, elevated, and happy, with a kind of happiness I had never known, and now it's there all the time. But I know happiness itself can be wrong. There's temporary happiness, but there's a more current kind where you find yourself and you live the life of yourself directly rather than indirectly through all of the teachings you've learned throughout your life, from first grade to 12th grade to college education, and how we've changed. But none of those teaching situations really affected much change in you. They were like a culture of spirituality that we dwell in by picking who we hang around with. And wow, enlightenment is more common among those who come to satsang, or even those who don't come to satsang but do a lot of spiritual practice. At some point, you'll find out that you own the practice. It doesn't own you. You want it. The quiet life of being immersed in yourself with no external life demands or opportunities. And to just sink into oneself until you're gone. And the only thing that's left is your consciousness and happiness. The happiness comes and goes the first few years you practice. And in the traditions I'm from, happiness was always unimportant compared with other things to be considered as a student. If you're trying to understand yourself, this is a good way. But actually it's not, because in a sense there's two worlds. There's the world of conventional human existence. And then there's the world or the experience of a saint, an enlightened being. And usually it sets me, or at least it did me, a wonder. As to what this is all about. Not only my existence on a daily plane, but vis-a-vis God, enlightenment, samadhis. But I can assure you, if you stick to this path, and that's a big if, I'll get into that later. If you stick to this path, and you have to know for a while whether this is your path or not. Because if you're still looking, apparently you found the wrong path. You come here to lose your path and to find out who you are in a spiritual way, as consciousness itself, raised out of nothingness, sitting here quietly, contemplating one's own self. You look within and you find within, you feel within. The thing is, I don't set a series of clear goals to determine whether you're heading in the right direction or not. But usually, if you're having difficulty with your practice, with coming here, with meditation, if you're having difficulty, that's a good sign. Because everything you've known until the time you've entered the spiritual path is being observed and gone over, and most of it rejected, which brings with it a sense of depression or loss. And then when you're in this period of feeling the depression, other things might happen to you in your life, like a depressive disorder, physical problems, a deep sadness that shakes you to your very essence of your being. All these are part of the path. They happen to you even if you come here. It's hard giving up being human. Robert used to say that all the time. You have to give up being human. And instead, become yourself. Forget about that human self that people talk to you about. Here, you're trying a whole new approach to your living. Maybe it's not new for a lot of you. I might be your 39th teacher, for all I know. But you know what I mean. Our lives can be pretty boring, and they can become overly exciting too. And when you have problems in spirituality, the experiences can be quite intense and frightening. Especially near the beginning of your spiritual career, or during times when you have breakthroughs that fill you with life and happiness and clarity and more happiness. But these don't last. Depression comes back. Fear comes back. Our old habits come back. And I could say, this is an escape from being human. And that's one way of describing it. But you have to come to a place where you have no idea what you're doing or where you're doing it. Whether your practices are good or bad. And you wonder where the negative feedback is coming from, and wonder where the positive feedback should have been coming, but it's not. In a way, practice here is learning how to die to yourself, the everyday self, the full of shit person you are, to one who can sit in one's own consciousness and be happy. Not because you've attained anything, but that's because that's how humans are. We're not distracted by all the drivel most people are distracted by. The world comes to an end for many people every day. Us too, it's coming that way too. That shouldn't make you really feel unhappy, maybe more frightened, but it should be a perceived push to get you to practice and search a little harder. If one were to use a measure of my own life. I left when I was 26, I think it was. I wasn't any longer in graduate school, although I did take a lot of graduate subjects. But I certainly wasn't happy when I first began spiritual practice. I searched for the right type of practice, the correct understanding to be derived from practice, the wisdom that I assumed would come someday from practice, and found instead there was nothing. There was nothing. There was no, in the old streetcars and buses I used to ride in, when it was standing room only, they had those straps overhead that you could put your hand through and just remain standing no matter what the bus was doing. And that's been my spiritual life since the days when I started it. You really don't start making progress until the going is hard for you. Until all kinds of problems seem to arise out of satsang, out of meditation, out of self-investigation. And as you practice, you'll find that your own terrors can really rip you apart at this stage. It's not in the sense that there's just constantly growing inside of you this death wish. But you begin to doubt your journey. In Zen, this is called a great doubt. And everything done is done to encourage that self-doubt and that doubt about the Zen practice and the Zen teacher. Imagine practicing for 30 years or so, and all that I got out of it was a halfway approachable life without too much problems, although the problems were still there in terms of meeting everyday demands of life. But still there's something missing. And the strange thing is, what's missing is the presence of you. In your own world, right now, you should be aware of your own presence. You should be aware whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're sleepy, whether you're doubting, whether you're enraged, whether you're filled with questions. I didn't have any questions. I just practiced because there was enough positive feedback early in my practice to make me coming back for more. And then two, a decision I made when I was maybe 26, 25, that the worldly life was not for me. I couldn't race fast enough to get away from it. I had Sansanim as one of my primary Zen teachers. Thich Thien An, who ordained me, was a very different type, very quiet, very loving, in a kind of happy kind of way. On the other hand, Sansanim was a lot like a rocket ship with bombs attached to it. Being with him was constant drama, because he was always raising hell. People around him, the people that ran the satsang, mostly his students. You can't tell by how you're feeling whether you're close to enlightenment or not. Because the thing is, you may be so full of ideas you've acquired that in a sense have become your true identity, that it's so hard to let go of them because you feel lost. And feeling lost is really an essential experience that you must have following this path at some point or another. Because you have to throw everything away inside of yourself. And by that I mean not only your attachments, but your beliefs, and to put your life in the hands of a teacher, a practice, a sangha. And you make the sangha your guru, more so than the guru, because the guru created the satsang, and the best way to be with the teacher is to get rid of everything. And after you get rid of everything remaining. Like how happy you are that you're enlightened. You throw that away too. But let's face it, getting enlightened is really hard for intelligent people that can raise 100 doubts per minute during any satsang session. Life is one big doubt, well, not so much about life, but about any kind of possible way out of everyday life. There's doubts. Is he the right teacher for me? Is this the right kind of Zen? Is there a different kind of Zen that's higher or lower? Is there a non-Zen people that maybe are snake worshippers that I could really get to know? You have to throw all of that away. All of your doubts. All of your worry about whether you'll ever be enlightened or not. I was practicing maybe 40 years before it happened to me. 35 years, something like that. Because, as some of my teachers said, I'm too smart. My mind keeps turning and turning and turning and turning and looking in new ways and bad ways and other ways, and gets totally absorbed in understanding everything, including the way that I'm in, rather than just do it, rather than question it. But we're Westerners, and we tend to question the things that we do. It's got to somehow make sense to us or show some sort of improvement in our lives. Otherwise, why should we do it? Well, improvement is hard because improvement is a function of how much we've gotten rid of the life we had been living, the identities we have had before. Here we're going from maybe an unhappy being searching for meaning, for love, for forgiveness, for hope, for truth. And we travel a path like that, looking for that has so many unknowns written into it that you have to face in order to continue. Now, right now at this minute, or this day, let's say, I can never say that I'm unhappy. That part of me doesn't exist anymore. That part that measures whether I'm happy or unhappy. But if I were to take my experiences apart, I'd say another person would find ecstasy in the situation I'm in and the feelings that I have. But to help you, this kind of understanding has to happen to you. In a sense, you sit and nothing happens. But something is happening. You're gradually getting rid of your desire to participate in the everyday world with everyday topics and everyday projects. You're not trying to find a job to make $100,000 a year or even $20 million is a fortune. You're trying to do something that is so rare if it's done successfully all the way. Because when you get all the way, there's nothing but happiness. There's nothing but happiness. There's nothing but happiness. First happiness comes when you sit in satsang. And the silence comes. And you sit there in silence, and there's some thinking going on. But usually when you recognize the thinking going on, you automatically retract. But if you can keep sitting like that, doing nothing, and going through all of that, which that kind of lifestyle entails as it impacts your life and your own self-worth. I think that 99.9% of all human endeavors, human practices, human systems to find happiness they don't really work for most people. People have to search and search until they find something that seems to work for them. But really, all that they had to do would be to persist in the practice that they were practicing, which had become old to them, and therefore they think no value. You want to continue practicing even more when you no longer see the point of it. You just do it because I tell you to. I tell you that's the way. That's the way to find enduring happiness, enduring joy. That's the way you can be of comfort to others. Sometimes just by holding their hands when they're going through painful injuries or painful depressions. You just stay with them and you give of your heart to them. You hold their hand and you watch as they gradually exit the manic state and start calming down, calming down. And then soon they're looking like Jay, sleeping. And you know Jay's got it. Being nothing really means being nothing in terms of everyday life and what you're practicing to live as a profession, who you're with. Imagine how long it takes some people to find even some semblance of a soulmate. Because it's like looking for a pin in a haystack. I guess you find the right one when you get stuck by the pin. Finally having an orientation, you're in a haystack. But I could truly say, I'm happy. really, really happy because I'm not filled with doubt anymore. I've ironed out all the different wrinkles that prevent me from being happy. I'm sure all of you could find a few wrinkles that I need to iron out more. And I guess I'm always going to be ironing out wrinkles. But when you get near the end of throwing away all of your conventional beliefs, your conventional attitudes, your conventional searches, and like go into a room doing nothing, in a sense you're in a room next door to complete happiness. And your problem is to make a spiritual movement to the left or to the right, or up or down for you, to enter that state of undisturbed happiness. I can't tell you really when I stopped searching, or when exactly I got happy, or who I was with. It was a very gradual kind of thing, with many different experiences that could be called enlightenment experiences, but I see enlightenment experiences the same as all the other experiences mixed in. You can't tell what they're for until you've been through them. But imagine throwing everything away in yourself. Throw away your wife, your husband, the house, the car, your career. And there's nothing left except you sitting in your unhappiness, waiting for happiness to come. Now that you've given away everything I told you you should, because it comes at its own time. The only thing that you can do is to persistently empty yourself of all beliefs, all expectations, all desires, and get to know yourself on the deepest way. That's what it's really about. It's about losing interest in the life you've led in the past, of being a student, being a teacher, being an auto mechanic, being an engineer. You did all of those things in order to accomplish something, to make yourself happy, or to make the human race happy by being there for it, to help it. You're a good person, therefore you help others, and you help your culture too. But it's a trap. It's a trap. And you must escape it too first. Give it all up. Give it all up. And just sink into yourself over and over again, day after day. And you'll have many, 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 many experiences. Some happiness, some scary. A lot of scary experiences that one can happen, because you don't know what the truth is. You're not at a place where you've gone through the whole gauntlet necessary to get free of being human. Now, you see, right now, because I'm talking, I'm not in the completely happy state, because I have to think and pull together experiences and make a lecture out of it. But actually, I don't do that anymore. I just freelance it. Doing planned lectures when you're a spiritual teacher is wrong. But what happens when you're rid of all that shit in you is that you slow way down. You're not highly active anymore. You don't run around looking for new jobs. You don't run around looking for new girlfriends or boyfriends. You run around doing those things that you have to do to maintain your life as it is. Like take care of your cat and dog, take care of your children, your wife, your husband. But you do it in a loving way because you know it's both important for them, but I guess it's important to you too, to be of help to them that you love, or at least tolerate. But what happens after a while, you can't do any of this shit anymore. It just seems like a waste of time sometimes if you're not getting a lot out of it. And it seems in those times of troubles, of worry about your path, your teachings, your way of life, that all of these activities empty you, an ounce at a time. And the more you practice, the longer you practice, the quieter you get. Your existence is equivalent to quietness. In a sense, you can actually be quiet when you're talking to somebody. Because that quiet presence is you, and you continue to identify with it because you're always attached to that feeling of yourself. Now look, no matter what you are, you can feel yourself in your body. You can feel your feet, your knees, your stomach, your chest, your breathing, your head, shoulders. But there comes a time when you really feel happy, and you're continuously happy. And as that happens, you can abide more in that state than in the state of getting rid of the rest of the shit you have to get rid of to be totally awakened. You can make it. No matter how fearful you are of your lack of commitment or your lack of ability, or you're feeling your life has been sabotaged by known or unknown forces, and now you're in a place where you just can't do anything because you've lost faith in yourself. Just learn to sit and be quiet by yourself. Coming to satsang is one way because I entertain you with talks. But when you're at home alone, this is when you rest in your body and your mind. You just relax, relax, relax. Listen to my voice. And as you do that, you'll feel your body relaxing. And after a few minutes, it's relaxed so entirely that you feel really awake and alert. And what you feel is emptiness and happiness. Emptiness and happiness. So your pursuit of emptiness is really a pursuit of happiness also. How to get rid of everything inside of you? Well, that's easy. It's the flip side. Practice emptiness. Don't entertain those desires anymore. Change your daily habits to slow down. Make sure that sitting meditation is a part of everyday experience. Listen to the great saints. Don't make it your life, but listen to them. Maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. Pick someone to listen to, because every time you hear holy words, they bring you closer to finding that love within yourself that makes it all possible. I'm empty. I can perceive my body, and mostly my upper back where it rests against the chair. I can feel my legs because it's chilly in here. And I feel the chilliness and a little bit of, shivering because of that. But if I just stayed here, instead of following all those desires I had in the past, trying to acquire this, acquire that, get a doctorate, get a wife, the alternative way is to get nothing and be used to nothingness. Because nothing is the way to pure happiness. So don't fight it when you notice that you're less and less desirous of doing things. And don't think to yourself, well, Jesus, I'm getting old. I have to start doing things again. Get a little life going in me. No. Once you're on the path of enlightenment, you're on it. Maybe you won't complete it. Maybe you will. But there's no one really to say, look, hey, I'm enlightened now. Doesn't do you much good. It doesn't do them much good unless they believe you, unless you have the ability to somehow transform them from their position of basic human unhappiness to a life of emptiness, but a lot of pure joy going on in that emptiness. The emptiness is replaced by a quiet happiness, and sometimes experiences of grace that leave you weeping for a couple of days because they're so beautiful. There's magic in all that you put into your spiritual practice. Maybe not where you are now, but eventually. I can't promise anybody what they'll be if they do X, Y, or Z. But I do promise that if you do X, Y, and Z, you'll be happy at least. Feel your body. Feel all the tensions in your body. Those tensions are the things that make you want to do something to lessen the tensions or fulfill what those tensions are apparently here for. To give you pleasure, to give you money, to give you a vacation, whatever. But you have to give up that everyday life really and plant one foot at least in heaven. And just hang on for the ride that getting there brings you to. And it's also great to read books about spiritual teachers because every one of them will make you make a mistake and follow that path for a while, even though it's nowhere near what you should be doing for your own path. But it's good to have that feeling of relaxation. But when you're ready, all that dreaming ideas disappear. Those I thoughts, those daydreams of wealth and pleasure, those days of searching for love or enlightenment are over. And you just sit in yourself as much as you can. Find that sense of self within. And if you can't find it, just sit and do nothing. But after a while, the sense of self grows. and replaces that old sense of self you had. Because it's cleaner, doesn't have as many shoulds, wants, and desires. It's just quiet. And you can be in ecstasy, and your body's not moving. But you could be having the ecstasy of life, of you've ever been through, and you don't move at all. Because you know it has to do with stillness. Stillness of the mind, stillness of the body, so that the spiritual things can awaken in you. You have to slowly leave the life you were in. Or you can do it like I did. Give it all up and run away to a circus. It's not really a circus, but you go to a kind of circus because you'll meet so many different teachers and so many different personalities and so many different spiritual practices. And it'll be a blur. It can be very confusing. But if you can keep your peace long enough to go deep into yourself and find nothing, that nothingness is where you're going. Once you hit that nothingness, it's hard to be disturbed after that. Because in reality, you found yourself, that emptiness within. And that emptiness itself is happiness. That emptiness itself is silence. It's rest. You no longer wish for anything because you got everything you need for life and for your soul. It's that you're happy. And the happiness boils over. There's a difference in your happiness. And the happiness that a lot of happy people have. Because it goes away. Yours goes away. Yours stays. Yours is continuous. Yours is constant joy whenever you want it. Except you may want to watch me on television with my new TV show whenever it starts. Say, oh, I gotta see Edgy. And you go back into your samadhi. You have everything you need right now. To be enlightened. Mostly you have to stop doing things. Stop wasting your time. Spend the time on yourself alone. And of course, taking care of any duties, any animals that are with your wife or husband. But you minimize your involvement in the world. The world doesn't give you shit. It gives you a kind of rewards you chase, but they don't satisfy you when you get them. Find the kind of happiness that happens because you have nothing. And it's permanent. I mean, it's up and down in days. sometimes more than others. But basically, you're happy and you're no longer looking for anything. Whatever comes is all right. And that's because you reached your own place of emptiness. And your own place of emptiness, already most people can find it inside themselves. It's a stillness they find in their heart area. And then they expand it, that stillness. And that's a good way if you can find it in your heart. So many different ways, because there's so many different avenues towards enlightenment. Okay, now any questions?
Hey, Edgy.
Yeah,
Hi, Edgy. I find that coming to satsang is so important, obviously. When I find myself falling during the week, falling out of the
who's talking?
spiritual
I
state,
can't see who's talking.
it's Michael T.
Okay,
When I find that coming to the satsangs everything because when I fall out of the spiritual state of mind through the course of the week, it usually takes me days to reset, but when I come here and listen to you, I literally experientially feel, I mean, like you put out this sort of like divine energy or some kind of bubble. It sort of envelops the, even, I didn't know it was possible through a computer, but it envelops the whole room and
you didn't
around
think
me.
it
And
was possible, what?
I didn't think it was possible that someone could send energy like that through the internet. It'll envelop the room and around me, and I'm like, it's like you're like divine energy on steroids or something. So that's just from the energetic point of view, but what you say is obviously a different manifest of that energy. Um, but I find that all you hit everything on the mark about living, giving up things in life. I find that everything that I learned in life that makes me strong, uh, get to ward off the bad things and get ahead business wise and everything. I find that all that stuff that gives me that kind of strength pulls me out of the that spiritual state. When I let go of that, it I know you're stronger in the sense of the spirituality, but what I find is sometimes I'm open to the bulliness out in life with how society is and how people are. It seems like it's a paradox in that the things I learned in life to be strong, like fighting fire with fire to deal with a tough life, it it uh, it's hard to separate that when you go into the spiritual state. In other words, having one foot in heaven and one foot on earth, it's very difficult to pull off.
That's true.
And and it seems like I could leave this great energy, and the next day I'm involved in life. And I try to rewind during the day what made me actually fall out of that state. And it's very difficult. It's sort of like it just happens and I can't find the inflection point. I'll say, okay, I went here and did this to
Can you
better
give me an
myself.
example? Make up an
Um,
example, simple example.
okay, I'll put 3 hours into investments or something that totally requires quantitative analysis of the markets or something like that, and doing this extra stuff to make myself more abundant to survive better. And then I'll go and even work out. And then I come back and I said, whoa, 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 where am I at now? I totally lost my footing. I was here in a humble state coming out of satsang, and I can't sort of make that happen as I'm going through the rigors of life. It's very difficult.
That's why we have continuing satsangs. That's why you have spiritual teachers. That's why you can go to a monastery and live there, because there's so little distractions. It's so much easier to do anything spiritually when you're in a spiritual center with a good teacher. All of the shit that bothers you is more or less taken care of. You have a daily life that's organized according to bells and charms, depending on whether you're working in that center, you work outside of the center. But it's all aimed at achieving quietness and innerness. So what to do is to live close to that as you can. Go to lots of satsangs. Visit a center that's close to you and spend a lot of time there. Go to their satsangs. It's just really learning how to be yourself and get rid of what's not you. And it's easy. It's not that hard to get rid of not you when you're surrounded by not you, and then it becomes you, when the happiness becomes you. It's really hard to do a spiritual practice the way we do it, as separated individuals. And it was really harder in the old days when you had to travel, give up your job, give up your household, and travel to a teacher and be there to get go through all the shit that you have to in a satsang setting, in a spiritual community.
I think I remember being a young boy, and my mom really taught me well about how to treat others, and I sort of had a natural inclination to the spirituality stuff back even then. So my parents always thought I was weird, but I've noticed I was, you know, kind of humble and was nice to everybody, but I got picked on a lot. And so when I actually learned to be strong and I did back and did better and stopped that kind of energy, I was taught things. Even then, those things taught me it lessened my spirituality. It was almost like I would have been better off just not being strong, and just like how they say the meek shall inherit the earth, you kind of lose yourself, a pureness about yourself when you try to become, when you toughen yourself, but you need it to live. And it's
What to live? I'm sorry, I'm
the
not.
toughness, the strength, like to keep from getting bullied, you hit back and you dominate in your area of where you never get bullied again, whether it's business or you protect yourself, but going doing that stuff, you kind of lose a little of the purity of the humbleness. You lose it. You then it strengthens your ego, and now you're saying, okay, I can thwart all this stuff now, but then you kind of lose the essence. It's a
And
sad thing.
you can take joy in the loss because you're entering a higher kind of spiritual living, a living where the happiness comes and goes, and deeper than that, the feeling of bliss can increase and grow and disappear too, and your dreams get unusual, and they're sort of something to enjoy as you try to figure out what is this all about. The new dream state that you encounter, and other new states open up. So your spirituality becomes full-time and a half, but it's really doing nothing and accepting yourself as nothingness and finding that everything else is added on, and when you're nothing, you're happy. It's like having a miracle man, a teacher who walks down the street and it's raining and he's not touched by the rain. Okay, metaphorically, we can say it's similar to that. But nothing has so many different ways to approach it, from where you are now to where you were 2 or 5 years ago, or where you'll be 5 years from now. It's always changing. That aspect is always changing. You're always finding something new taking place inside yourself that begins to emerge as your spiritual states change. And you can enjoy them or they can scare you. Either one is good. I've had both of them happen to me for long periods of time. And one is not better than the other. You just have to learn to endure all the bad stuff before the good stuff starts happening. And then it's not really the bad stuff, it's the boring stuff, it's the useless stuff. And usually you wonder, why am I doing this? It's why am I sitting here when I could be out enjoying myself getting run over by a car or something like that? Enjoyment isn't necessarily happiness.
Angie, what really scares me is 99.9% of our brothers and sisters out in the real or the fake world out there. I think back often on a fable that I was taught when I was a little boy, and there was this guy. He was in hell with a whole, with just millions. And one time, he found a spider along the wall, and he saved its life and had his way and had the spider go up the wall so he could leave the perdition's flames. And metaphorically, God saw this, and the spider was so grateful, it weaved a web down into hell so he can actually climb out and get out of there. And what happened was the rest of the race down there saw this, and they all en masse charged the web where the man was trying to climb the web, and it obviously snapped, and he never was able to go up. But it sort of reminds me metaphorically of the human race, and then everything that all the tools that we use, we're it goes to what you're saying. You got to let go, or you'll be part of that horde.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons so much emphasis is placed on sitting meditation. That's so you can be immersed in nothingness a lot and actually taught how to do it a lot by sitting and avoiding moving despite all your desire to move, to scratch your nose or to get a cup of coffee or to get some sleep instead of this. But it's all good. It's all good. But sitting meditation, I know it can be, awakening can come without sitting meditation, but sitting meditation is what you'll do after enlightenment if you didn't go through meditation to get there, because it's so pleasurable. It's just so absolutely pleasurable, the states of meditation that you can achieve after enlightenment, even during non-enlightenment. Chris, how is your sitting? How is your life going? I've seen such a large change in you in a rather brief period of time. And I remember when you used to complain that nothing is happening. I mean, you didn't feel like you were making any progress or anything, but you seem so much happier now.
I think persistence is very important. Persistence to just keep sitting, just keep doing it. Like you were saying, um, even when I didn't, even when even when I didn't feel pleasant, even when uh, unpleasant things were coming up, um, I just kept sitting. And I have to say, the daily meditations that we do, like when I first started, Mark was leading them. And it was really important, I think, for me to have that consistency every single day to sit and just sit. And I remember a lot of the times I would talk to Mark because I was really, really, really upset about something, and something was making me fearful, something was making me sad, something, and these things would come up every freaking day. And I would sometimes I would sit, sometimes I would talk to Mark during our sessions, and I'll tell you, that persistence of and what's the word? Um, just going through it. I don't remember what the word would be for that, is going through whatever was happening every freaking day and sitting quietly, not moving, like you said, not moving, sit quietly and let it happen was very, very important, is very, very important for me. And I've gotten much calmer. And one thing I do feel a lot more is I feel my emotions more than I did before. Because I think I've shared this before. My history was I worked like a crazy man, many, 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 many hours, always looking for the next promotion, always looking for the next, good performance review. But that was my drug, my addiction. So I didn't feel. And then I started coming here while I was still working. And I would just take a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes is all I could do because I do go work. But the more I sat, the more I had to sit, and the less, because I started feeling things. And the drive to bury it in, like I said, my addiction of work. I couldn't do that anymore. I just couldn't do it. And I don't know if you remember, about almost a year in, I really kind of had a breakdown. I was really a mess. I mean, everything just started coming. And I was fortunate that I could retire at that point. And that was a really huge change and benefit for me in that I could sit and feel and just be with my feelings and my life and my mind the way I had never done in my life. The way I kept pushing and pushing and burying and hiding. And then I could feel it. And like I said, for like a year or two, or I don't know, I was crying all the time. So much was happening. But in the last, say, year, I'd say I, it's coming more balanced, perhaps, call it. It's not so much the highs and the deep lows as much as just a calm being with things. Oh yeah. Like I think I wrote an email to you. I had a cousin who was really, really ill, and I don't know if you saw my email. He died last week. And that was really rough on me. But it's like you were saying, I was so grateful for this change because I did what you're saying. Through his dying, I was just able to hold his hand. Not literally, I wasn't physically with him, but figuratively, metaphorically. And I could hold his hand. And I remember one time he was really freaking out because he was dying and losing his mind. And he was really, really scared. And we talked for a while. And after a while, I said, well, you're alive, you're comfortable, you're okay. And he just kept saying over and over and over from that moment, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And he was scared. And I was, but he felt, and that's something I could never do before because I was too much in my mind, too much in myself to be there to actually comfort someone dying through his death. And I was sad, but I was also so grateful of the changes in me that allowed me to be with there for him as a real, call it a real human being at a real e- connection level that I could never do before because I was so much into myself. And that's what I feel the benefit for me of sitting quietly is that change from being in my mind and thinking about myself and my fears to being able to live, say, more through my heart and with other people on their for with them as they really are, as I really am, and as they really are. And maybe they don't even know it. Like I don't think my cousin could, he knew it. He didn't know it. He was too so, but I think we could connect, and that really helped both of us. So I think for me, every day sitting is was crucial. Sitting quietly and just watching whatever happens. And like I said, at the beginning, there was a lot of turmoil. And you know that. I wrote to you a lot about my turmoil. But I say sitting helps tremendously to feel it and not run away from it anymore. And not bury it in an addiction. Like I said, mine was work. And that's huge. And I feel better. What I mean by that, I feel calmer. I feel more able to deal with things as they are, less running away. And I don't want to be in the world anymore. I don't want all that kind of busyness. I just want to sit, play with my cat, be with Bernadette, have lunch, whatever. Just sit in the sun. My favorite thing to do right now is to lay down in the sun in the morning with my cat. She calls me. She calls me in the east room, like, of our house, to come lay with her and sit in the sun. And we just lay there and just lay.
Strange because when I was talking about that, this just recently in this satsang, I got that feeling from looking at you of being with my cat, because being with my cat is just such a wonderful thing. Only thing smarter than me in the room. Yep. And anybody that's got a cat or a small dog can feel the same way. I know, Jay, it's hard to get a new cat when you're as old as you are, because you don't want to go through that again too much, too quickly. You don't want to have a cat and then die on the cat and make the cat feel lousy. But just think about how much enlightenment the cat can get. Okay. Thank you for coming. Sit as much as possible. It's not a technical kind of thing. There are some Zen and other places that are so strict when it comes to the proper way of sitting that they're insufferable. But in a ways they work faster because they force you into yourself faster. Okay, take care. I love you all. Bye-bye.